Greetings, one and all. Have you been bad? Have you been good? Does it matter? No, not really, because heroes and villains alike now have access to challenge mode within the DC Universe Online. Unfortunately, it's not quite as impressive as it sounds. What challenge mode does is to take these storyline dungeons that we also know and love from DCUO and got so much enjoyment and experience and goodies out of while we were levelling, and rehash them for level 30. Now, this could be either good or bad, and I'm not particularly sold one way or the other at the moment. The good points are pretty simple. It is another thing for solo heroes, or indeed villains like myself, Nick Terrace here, to get on with during our daily dose of mayhem. It is a good way to gear up. Each of these missions tosses out 2 marks of allegiance, which can be spent for semi-decent gear, upper end blues. So, not great, but it's a good foundation for hard mode alerts, raids and such like. League probably wouldn't sneer at you if you showed up wearing this stuff, put it that way. That's the good stuff. Now for the bad news. When I said that these were rehashes of the storyline missions, I meant exactly that. They are exactly the same as the storyline missions. Mob placement, environment, puzzles, everything is exactly the same. The only difference is that all the mobs have been levelled up to level 30, and consequently there are some slightly bigger numbers flying about. If anything, this could even be regarded as slightly easier by comparison, because of course at level 30 you have the full complement of weapon skills and manoeuvres, whereas at level whatever, in this case level 6 or 7 if you're on the Joker track first time through, you've only got a very limited subset of your weapon abilities. Is this a good move on Sony's part, or is it just laziness? Well, I can understand why they want to reuse environments. I have spent enough time working in Hammer myself, or Unreal Ed, or anything like that, to know that, yeah, an environment like this is going to have taken dozens, if not hundreds of man-hours to build, test, rebuild, test again, test a third time, be driven to strong drink by, and finally publish. However, for the mobs to be exactly the same, particularly the bosses, is something I must admit I regard as being just a little bit lazy. Trash mobs like the GCPD, yeah, fair enough. But special encounters like the SWAT Elite and Huntress in this dungeon, I must admit I would expect them to come with a few extra surprises, be it gas grenades, gas arrows in the sense of Huntress, but meh, no they don't. Yeah, missed opportunity there, I must say. Still, it's all good, I think. Not least because I get to play through a Joker mission, which I actually quite like, as a Lex Luthor mentored villain. So I get the best of both worlds. I get to have that little rampage through the Watchtower at level 30. Mind you, Joker villains will now get that. And if I piss off my mentor, at least it'll just be a stern memo and not a whoopee cushion full of own brand happy gas. Anyway, let's deal with these mooks quickly and move on. Most of this video, as you've noticed, is being recorded at double speed. It has to be said, I didn't really intend this to be a technical discussion of either gadgets or dual wielding. If there's some interest, I might possibly do a how-to on one or the other, like I did for acrobatics. We shall see. You'll also notice, of course, that I'm not using tab targeting. It's just personal habit. I prefer being able to freely switch targets, especially in a one-on-many situation like this. Blame Arkham Asylum if you want. I spent a fair amount of time playing that before DCUO came out, and not getting locked to a single target, unlike WoW's more indirect control system, is quite a good thing, particularly when you've got so many AoE, cone and point blank attacks like this one. Anyway, let us continue. Where were we? Oh yes, marks. Now, I mentioned right at the start of this video that you get marks of allegiance for these challenges. For those of you who haven't seen the joy that is DCUO's currency system, there are also marks of legend from the special character PvP. Basically, you can play as Joker, Harley, Bats, etc, etc. Marks of victory, influence. Let me see, there's also the raid marks. I forget. Literally, that is the problem. I can't remember offhand how many types of currency there are in this game. That's a bad sign. It's not as bad as STO, where there are about 15 different types of currency and only about 3 of them are relevant and the others just rot in your inventory, but it has the potential to get that way if the dev team don't bear it in mind during the rest of this game's life cycle, particularly the next 6 months as they start to introduce, or at least think about introducing, the next tier of raid and hard mode content. Anyway, hello Huntress, please stop shooting at me, thank you, you're far more interested in Catwoman. So, as I've said, the currency system needs to be kept relatively simple, although I do note that you have the option, unlike Star Trek Online, to trade in marks that you aren't interested in for ones that you are, even if the exchange rate of 10 to 1 is just a little bit steep, but that's just me complaining. So, back onto the subject of this particular dungeon and its design. As I've said, it would have been nice to see them play it a little more like WoW's heroic modes, and rather than simply use bigger numbers, to mix boss fights in particular up a bit. So, for example, here, Huntress is using her straight set of abilities. So, staff enclosed, crossbow the rest of the time, and the occasional explosive barrage, and yeah, GCPD get involved every so often just to mix things up. So, how could we improve it? Add a little bit of a twist? Well, let's see. Has Huntress ever deployed gas arrows, or flashbangs, or batarangs? Hunterangs? No, I think she goes for throwing knives in the comics, doesn't she? Anyway, just an extra attack to mess you about a little bit more. Worth considering if for the next round of heroic equivalents. Anyway, that is that. She is gone, we have our marks of legend, and I'll see you next time.